Welcome back to the Outlaw Ranch. Well, after stewing on this issue last night with this little fill plug here that goes into this cover, and if you guys will remember, that cover goes onto the side of that axle, right where we're trying to put this bracket. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay this bracket right over the top, line up the holes as best we can, and as you can see, that hole is right there. So I'm going to center punch or transfer punch a hole right here. Then we're going to take it over to a drill press and we're going to put a hole in it. So stand by, folks, while we get that done, and let's see how close we can get with it. All right, y'all. As you can see here, we have that hole, and we bored a hole in this plate. And so now that plug hopefully will still fit through this hole. If not, I can come in here and maybe clean up these edges a little bit. Maybe that's what I should do, is try to trim those edges up, especially if that screw doesn't fit back in there. If this all works, we can start putting that back together and see how far we can get with this. Man, what a process this is. So stand by, folks. Let's see what we can get done here. All right, y'all. What I decided to do is I actually happen to have this little 1/2-inch milling bit. And I hate using it because it gives you those tiny little metal splinters that always end up in your hand. So we're going to try that milling bit. We're going to try and clean this out here a little bit, try to make it look better, and see where that gets us. So stand by, folks, as we start milling this out. All right, y'all, as you can see, we have our bracket on. It lines up well. That screw is now accessible. One little issue, I don't know if you guys can see that here. That washer's loose, and that washer's loose. The other two are tight. It's not really torqued down on there. It is snug, so it looks like I'll have to add a couple of washers to it. Also, I need to apologize for the background noise. It is a very windy day here at the shop, and so you're hearing the wind kind of vibrate the doors and stuff like that. But, you know, we take the good with the bad. So now we have just that one more bracket that we got to put on this rear output. So let's get that taken off. Let's get the new bracket put on and see how everything lines up. Everything so far is actually lining up really well. So the only issue that I see that I'm going to have, and it's my own fault here, okay? They make this top hat, this piece here, they make an extended one that comes out here, and then there's these little corner brackets that come out to support that. And that is the top hat that I should have gotten. This axle is not quite exactly centered, but it is close. There's the output on the transfer case, which is centered. And so that one of those upper brackets, you know, they angle like this, and then this one would go like this. They're going to be covering these bolts. And I don't know if I'm going to have the angle on that, you know, right, because it does have to go towards the top part of that cradle there. Sorry, there's a brake line in the way. But it goes to that bar right there. So I may need to either extend this or see if I can't get a hold of Beyond Precise and just get that top plate that's extended and then those two angle brackets that come off. But yeah, I probably screwed up. I probably should have asked more questions before I got this, but live and learn. So on to the next bracket. All right, y'all. Here's the next little problem. This is why building these vehicles just takes so long. I got those 4 bolts removed, but the bracket won't go on because right here, can you guys see that right there? That is like a casting mark or something. There's just extra casting there, and it has to be removed in order for that bracket to go on and go tight. And there's not really enough real estate in this bracket to remove anything to fit around that. So this piece here is going to have to come off. So, like everything else that I seem to do, 1 step forward, 2 back, I'm going to go get that milling bit. I'll chuck it up into the drill and see if I can't remove that little piece there so that we can get this bracket bolted on. But this is why, you know, we pay mechanics and fabricators a lot of money, because there's always these little things that come up that need to be addressed. Otherwise, you know, nothing works right. So these are just little headaches that those guys probably deal with every day. This is just a headache that I have to deal with every once in a while when I actually start to work on this truck. So stand by. Let's see if we can't get that little tab removed. All right, y'all. As you can see right there, we got that taken care of. So now let's put this bracket on and see how it lines up with that top plate. Stand by, folks. All right, y'all. You can see we got this one bolted down now. Everything's turning out real well. The next thing we're going to do is let's get some bolts. We only probably need a few bolts in there just to make sure or see how this is going to line up. I'm pretty sure one way or the other that I'm either going to have to add on to this side, or the easy thing to do would be to contact Beyond Precise again and see if I can't just get just this top piece here, the extended one, the one that comes out this way. Oh, I don't know. Gosh, 6 inches would probably be enough. Something like that. Just so that those upper links aren't, the brackets aren't covering these bolt holes. But before we get to that point, we're gonna run some string. We'll go from, you know, somewhere in here to the cradle mounts on either side and see how it looks. See what angles we need, you know, yada, yada, yada. So a little bit more work. Let's get these, let's just get a handful of bolts in that, see how everything lines up, and maybe use some string or tape or whatever it is we got lying around here. So stand by, folks. All right, y'all. As you can see, every one of these bolts is too long, and that is my fault because I thought that that cover down there on the floor stayed on and that this piece went over the top of it, and that was not the case. So every one of these bolts is too long. Looks like half-ish inch too long. The only other kind of anomaly here is this hole here doesn't seem to quite line up. So I'll probably have to get the drill or put this up on the drill press and just open that one hole up just maybe a size larger than what it is. So shame on me. I made the mistake. 1 step forward and 2 back. But you can see that this is lining up very nice all the way around. So Beyond Precise, kudos, guys. You guys really do great work here, and everything is lining up very well. Just that one bolt hole and my own short-sightedness. So I don't know. Maybe we can return these bolts and get some that are just a half-inch shorter. Most of them haven't been installed yet, so we'll check it out, see what we can do. Stand by, folks. All right, y'all. I'm back from my local bolt bin here. As you can see, I got bolts that are 1/2 inch shorter. These are the new bolts that will go into the top plate over here. So I'm going to, well, shoot, I guess I have to go and redo that hole. So I'm gonna put the bolts in that I can. Then I'll take a look and see what I have to do to open up that one hole, I guess. Maybe, well, I don't want to open up all those holes. We want to keep that as tight as possible. So we'll put the bolts in we can, check to see which one's off and what it would take to fix it, and go from there. So stand by. All right, y'all, as you can see, we have all of these bolts in now. They're all in place with the exception of this one. I don't know if you guys can see this. You can see that hole just isn't quite lined up. And when I go to stick the bolt in, it wants to lean a little. It leans that way and it leans that way. So I'm going to mark this hole with just a Sharpie to make sure I don't make a mistake. We'll take it over to the drill press. We'll take a look to see what size that hole is. We'll just go one step up, so 1/64 of an inch, and hopefully we can get that bolt to slide in nice and tight. So stand by, folks. We got a little bit more work to do. All right, y'all, what I did, I just removed this plate, and if you look, you can see all of those other bolt holes line up until we get to this one. And you can see that it's this plate, it's just off a little bit. So this is the hole that we actually have marked. I'll flip it over and show you. There's our purple Sharpie mark. So we'll take that over to the drill press, open it up the minimal amount, and hopefully it'll work then. We'll see. Stand by. All right, y'all. As you can see, we have all 8 bolts in here. So this top hat is now assembled with all the bolts. The only thing that I have to do is come in here and clean up the metal where the welds are going to go. We want that nice clean metal to have the best welds that we can get. The next step here is I'm going to go get those brackets. Well, actually what I'm going to do is get some string, and we're going to go from that cradle, which is right there and right there. And we'll run some string. Maybe we'll tie it off to this or something like that. And just ensure that this axle is exactly centered under this truck. And let's see what that string line looks like. If that string line looks like we can still put those 2 brackets in here, then we'll do that. And we won't worry about extending this side here. So next step, some string, and let's see what it looks like. Stand by, y'all. All right, y'all. What I did here is I have this piece of flat stock, and I just kind of put it on the wheel mount surface here and then tighten the lug nuts so that it was up against it. Then on the far side, I'll show you guys, I have a little 2-foot level here that's magnetic. So what I was able to do is kind of measure from point to point, come up with a measurement. Then I divided it by 2, ended up with 39 7/8. And I grabbed my Sharpie, and you can see I put a line here. So that is the center line of the axle. Now what I'm going to do is take those 2 string lines that I have there, bring them across so that they cross right here at the back of this axle. I'll probably tie them to this yoke here or something, and see where those brackets are going to line up. This is the best way that I could come up with. If you guys have a better idea, let me know. You know, this is all kind of shade tree mechanic stuff. So anyways, we're going to check that out, and then maybe I can even figure out how to measure that angle. Usually for rock crawlers, we want like 40-ish degrees on these mud trucks because everything is so big, you probably don't end up that long, but let's see what we end up with. Stand by. All right, y'all. I got my string lines run. They cross right here in the center line, pretty much. Oop, center line is actually over here. So there's the center line. They are close here. These brackets here would actually have to move forward because we got to create some real estate in there to put our nuts on. And I don't know how to do it. Maybe if I was to cut this bracket back here, then I could shove them forward and get some more real estate in there. The outer ones, we have plenty of room. The other issue is you can see that bolt would be completely inaccessible with that bracket there. So I think that's what's going to happen. The little nubbins here are going to have to get cut off, and they're going to have to get pushed forward a little bit more, which would be okay because you can see we're actually behind that tube a little bit. And I think we need to be more in line with the tube. So we're close, we're getting there, we're getting stuff figured out. I'll go ahead and see if I can't figure out what this angle is with the string lines and give you guys a good, accurate measurement there. But things are coming together. We're just a little fine tuning here. Now the lower links here, they're pretty neat. They slide right over here, and then that bolt is, I don't know, somewhere here, a couple inches forward. So my original plan was to make lower links, upper links, top, bottom, front to rear, everything was going to be one dimension. I don't think that's going to be possible, but I think it'll be close. So I'm going to keep working on this a little bit. I'll go ahead and get a measurement on those string lines, give you guys an idea of just how many degrees we have there, and we'll go from there. All right, y'all. Thought you guys might like to see how I'm doing this. And to be honest with you, I'm not real sure if this is accurate or not, but here we go. So I have this nifty little angle finder here, and well, let's see if we can't zero that out somehow. There we go, 0.0 degrees. So now I'm going to spread this out, and let's see if we can't get this angle really close here. So we got to come to where it's in here. We're close, really close, and it says 35.4. Typically we try to do it at 40. We have 35.4. That's actually pretty good. I think that's going to work at least enough for our purposes here. I don't know how much more I could get out of it, but there it is. 34.5 degrees. There is, of course, a little margin for error. Like, I don't know if that string is exactly coming off, you know, at the center at the right angle on either side of this. I think it's close. I also need to measure what the axle separation is. Typically we want 25-ish% of the diameter of the tire. So if you're running let's say you're running a 40-inch tire and you divide that by 4, you end up at 10. So we would want 10 inches of axle separation from wherever your lowers are to wherever your uppers are. These tires are 50-ish. I don't know, they might be 53 or something like that. But let's just assume they were 50. We divide that by 4. We end up at 12.5. So let's just call it 13 inches of axle separation from where this upper link goes to where the lower link is. So I'm going to put those brackets back up. We'll measure, see what it looks like. Hopefully we're close. If we're not, I'll have to figure something else out. But let's take that quick measurement and see what it ends up at. Stand by, y'all. All right, y'all. Let's go ahead and see if we can't get this measurement here real quick. We know that those lower link mounts are going to come right off the center of the axle if we have them going forward. So if we kind of come in here, eyeball about the center-ish, and then we move up that bolt. Looks like we have about 14-ish inches of axle separation. So we should have plenty, because even at 13 inches, that would mean we could survive with a 52-ish inch tire. And I think these are somewhere between 50, 53, something like that. So we have the axle separation we need. Now I just need to go through and fine tune what I need to do to those upper brackets, and we'll go from there. This is going to be it for this video. I'm really sorry that everything seems to take so long. I'm just one person and I've never done this, so I'm working through it the best I can. If y'all have comments, please comment. I will get to them. And I really am very appreciative of each and every one of y'all that would watch this. Very grateful to the subscribers who have subscribed to the channel. Y'all are doing me a good solid, and you don't even know who I am, so I really do appreciate that. As always, like, share, comment, subscribe. Everything helps very much. I answer all the comments that I get, and I'm very appreciative of the comments that I do receive. So thank you very much, and we'll catch y'all on the next one.